Anyone who has slept in a coffin knows that it is dark and damp inside, and the space is cramped and small. But I just like lying in it. I nodded and lay on a soft bed, feeling a little excited. I secretly took out the photos of the teacher and the orphanage and took a look at them, then carefully stuffed them under the pillow. This is the person I want to love well. After doing all this, I stared at the ceiling and pulled the quilt tighter. I stared until my eyes were sore and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, I quickly changed my posture. I huddled tightly in the quilt again and held the quilt against my chest, pressing it with so much force that it hurt me to death. I sat up and coughed violently. My lungs are not good, and I shouldn't have such violent movements. But I'm used to sleeping like this. I always feel something is missing and my heart is empty. In fact, I prefer to have someone sleeping next to me and holding me to give me warmth so that I don't have to rely on holding the quilt to get that unrealistic sense of security. I leaned against the head of the bed and couldn't sleep because of the pain in my lungs. It's been a long time since I felt so painful. If I knew it would be like this, I shouldn't have gone into the water casually. The lake water in the cold winter is really hurtful. It frostbite the boy's lungs and took away the heart of another boy. And many years later, their fates were entangled together. I sat for a long time before falling asleep again, but because I was leaning on the bed, when I woke up the next day, even my neck was sore. When I came out, I saw that the teacher had left long ago. There was breakfast on the table, including buns and beautifully steamed cakes. Professor Venier doesn't like sweet food, but he can't stand the fact that I, a student, like to eat it. So he started to learn to make cakes and bought the best honey for me. Everything was done to take care of my taste. Holding the buns, without putting honey in them, my heart was as sweet as eating honey. After eating, I walked on the street full of people, thinking about buying some ingredients to make the teacher's favorite food, so that I couldn't always wait for the teacher to serve me. When crossing the road, I saw a familiar figure with fluffy hair, not as young as before, and a few white hairs could be seen slightly. But I know her. Even if she turns to ashes, I will still recognize her. She is my mother. For so many years, I don't know how long I've kept her only photo. I am afraid that photo will be lost. We don't even have a photo together. Speaking of this, I am particularly grateful for the development of technology, which allows me to have a photo with my mother. The other party obviously saw me and ran away in a hurry, and there was only a road between us. I didn't care about anything else and hurriedly chased after her, regardless of the passing vehicles. My eyes were only in one direction. Am I so bad? We haven't seen each other for so long. Why can't you stop and chat with me? Ask if I'm okay. Is it so difficult? I chased her all the way, but she disappeared when I reached another intersection, and I didn't see anything. I half squatted down, raised my neck, my eyes were full of helplessness, and my heart was also sour, wronged, and sad. Jack was going to work. This road was his only way, and he soon noticed me squatting by the road. Facts also prove that I was not far from death. I just ran too fast, and a lot of gas rushed into my lungs. Coupled with the smell of gasoline and the sound of horns nearby, I fainted as soon as I closed my eyes. Jack's heart was as tangled as a ball of dough. We had only met twice. Why did he want to meddle in other people's business? He rushed over and picked me up. The fragrance of agarwood on my body lingered in his nose, and he trembled all over. My fingers grabbed his sleeves and buried them in his chest. My body also relaxed. Obviously, I felt relieved. Jack didn't know what his emotion was at this time. He just enjoyed my trust and even felt that it should be so. Jack gently put me on the seat and changed to a more relaxed posture to support my head. Drive to the nearby hospital. Lean on his shoulder. Young master, you pushed it this morning. Drive quickly. It's just a short meeting. Is there anything more important than human life? Jack kept staring at me without leaving and didn't even go to the company. He hasn't skipped work for a long time. This time he wanted to indulge himself. For a teenager like me, he was willing to be willful once. When I opened my eyes, I saw a vast expanse of white. It was a familiar place. The smell was also familiar, just a little stronger than the smell on Moon, but still acceptable. It was just that the light was brighter and made my eyes uncomfortable. I habitually reached out to weaken the light shining into my eyes. Don't mess with the needle in your hand. This sound was a little cold. I noticed that there was a person beside the bed. I stared at him for a long time because I just woke up and my memory was still a little confused. I looked at Jack carefully, as if I wanted to overlap his appearance with the figure in my memory. It was you who sent me here. Thank you. I thought for a while, and then remembered that this person was the one I envied. When I was a brother, I wished I was Jack and wanted to enjoy the feeling of being held in someone's palm. Enjoy the tenderness that belongs to me and enjoy the care. But people are different. Others are born to be mountains, but I may just be a stream or even not flow. I am not worthy of the best things in this world. Family, love, friendship, none of them belong to me. So I like to go all out in everything I do. My life is a gamble. I gambled twice decades ago, and I'm still gambling now. I thought I would win, but I was wrong after all. I lost 9 out of 10 bets. I was destined not to win. No, are you hungry? I asked Xiao Lu to bring me food. Jack put away the work materials and sent a message to his secretary. Even if I said I was not hungry, the food would still be brought up. I sat up and looked at Jack. Suddenly, I remembered something and kept looking around. Have you seen my phone? I see it is dark outside. It is summer now. Logically speaking, it would not get dark so early. So it can only mean that I slept for a long time. I was afraid that the teacher would be anxious. I had no worries before and no one would care about me even if I died outside. But it's different now. I have a family, and I believe in my heart that the teacher will find me. Jack handed over 2 mobile phones at the same time. His mobile phone is just like him, with a black body, giving people a low-key and alienated feeling. An anxious voice came over immediately, mixed with concern. When I spoke, my tone was very calm, giving people the feeling that nothing was wrong. But my hands were placed on the quilt and kept rubbing. It can be seen that this is the first time I told such a lie. Jack felt that there should be no one in the world who likes to be sick without someone by his side. That kind of helplessness is very devastating. I just don't want to make the teacher worry. I have long been accustomed to being alone. There is no difference between one more time and one less time. I have been hospitalized twice, and both times I was accompanied by someone, and it was the same person. I will remember this feeling. When I mentioned it, Jack remembered it. I didn't expect that I would remember his small action for so many years. Back then, he just sent me to the hospital because I had a high fever. That was our first official meeting. Before that, my memory only stayed on the delicious cake that Jack chose for me. Jack didn't have much memory, so he wouldn't take such things to heart, but I was different. No one was kind to me. So I would remember a little favor for a long time, deeply engraved in my heart, and then return it double. However, Jack didn't want to continue this topic. If it went on like this, he was afraid that he would be heartbroken. Is there anything uncomfortable or painful on your body? I tried to force a smile and shook my head. I'm fine. I wouldn't say it even if I did, but Jack still didn't believe it. His expression was a little doubtful, but more worried. I'm really fine. I know my own body best. Thank you for staying with me for so long. You can go back and rest. I can go back by myself tomorrow morning. I really want Jack to accompany me, but people can't be too selfish. He's not my brother. I can't take his kindness. Okay, someone will bring food over later. Let's take a rest after eating. I still have work to do later. Jack really just found a small excuse for himself. He was afraid of being rejected and afraid that I didn't want him to stay. If I could be a little selfish at this time, will Jack in the future be less heartbroken and live in guilt all his life? Soon, a man with a rather burly figure came to bring me food. It was also light, just a bowl of white porridge, a cup of hot milk, and 2 eggs. I don't like milk or white porridge, but in order not to disappoint others' kindness, I still ate the egg white and drank a mouthful of porridge and never touched it again. Xiao Lu looked at my taste and found it was surprisingly consistent with their eldest young master. At this time, he finally believed in his young master's judgment. He also suspected that the report was taken by mistake. It's okay if they look alike, and even the taste is the same. Xiao Lu was testing, although this might not be useful, because their young master likes to eat walnuts very much, and he looks more like his wife. But he still wanted to give it a try. He believed in miracles and his 7th sense as a man. I thought the other party wanted to blame me. When this was said, Xiao Lu's eyes were vaguely suspicious. He now felt that there was something wrong with the report he made at the beginning. Maybe he should do it again. Xiao Lu is a business elite. Every smile of his is designed, and every action is just right. Because the environment is too familiar, I dreamed of some things in the past directly, but this time I was a bystander. I was still a laughing face when I was a child. At that time, my happiness came from the heart. Even if I was covered with scars, as long as I hid the scars on my body, I could be the same as others. I could still play carefree. I like to laugh because a smile can make me forget the pain temporarily. Sometimes I wonder if I will not feel pain if I laugh. However, after being hurt more, I gradually forgot the meaning of the smile itself, and I learned to fake a smile. I learned to wear a mask and to please others. The saddest thing is that I would still choose to hold an umbrella for others, even though I was clearly in the rain. I was clearly having a high fever, but I still chose to jump into the cold lake to rescue the boy. Sometimes, I really feel that I'm extremely pathetic. I pity all living beings, but who is willing to pity myself? When I woke up, it was still very early, but I left the hospital without stopping. I wanted to verify one thing. I roughly guessed where my mother would go. I really didn't ask for much. I just wanted to know one thing. I ran to a crowded alley where everything was very shabby. Even the house was rusty. My mother liked to gamble and smoke. So much so that I was often hungry in my childhood, and my stomach was also hungry at that time. The only valuable thing in the house, the piano that carried my mother's dream, could be sold. What's more, I can understand it. I stood at the door and knocked on the door of the house where I had lived for half a year. I was still afraid. This fear was different from pain. It was a scar that could not be erased from my heart. I could adapt to pain, but not fear. Who was it? It was early in the morning. When the two met, my mother had the biggest reaction. She was about to close the door, not caring that my hand was still stuck in the crack of the door. The huge, squeezing force made my hand obviously bruised. But I didn't care. When did this woman, my so-called mother, care about my life or death? I didn't hesitate. I pushed the door open and walked in slowly. I concealed it well. On the surface, I looked relaxed, just like going home. Only I know how much strength I need to take each step. Mom, this should be the last time I call you. Don't worry. I'm not so cheap. I was abandoned by you, but I still have to lick my face to live with you. There were 7 parts of forbearance and 3 parts of self-mockery in my tone. I knew that this sentence was used to deceive people, but why can't I let it go? I'm such a jerk. I was abandoned even though I was a jerk, but I still dreamed of him coming to me again and again. I lowered my head and hid my emotions. I came here just to ask you one thing, as long as you answer me. At this point, I want to escape. I have never been so afraid of the answer as I am now. You. Why didn't you want me in the first place? I pinched my fingers until they turned white. I could even say that I pinched them. I wanted to keep myself awake and hear the desperate answer soberly. Let my heart go from the original passion to cold. Do I need a reason to not want you? I feel sick when I see your face. Why? Why can others have a happy family, just like others? And I can only stay in such a small house. I just hate you. She screamed heartbreakingly like a madwoman. I don't know who the she in my mother's mouth is, but it doesn't matter anymore. I have heard the answer I want. There is 1 million in this bank card. From now on, I have nothing to do with you. May you be well for the rest of your life. I threw the bank card down and ran away. I should have done this a long time ago. The 1 million was the copyright fee for my first song. Let me be willful for once and use this 1 million to redeem myself. At this moment, I feel comfortable all over. Life is short. I should have been like this a long time ago. Why bother if you don't love? After a long sigh of relief, I happily went to buy breakfast for the teacher. Teacher, I'm back. I'm sorry. I was going to make you delicious food last night, but I didn't come back and made you worry. When I came back, the teacher just woke up. Looking at my expression, he found that I seemed different today, but he couldn't tell what was different. He liked me more like this, full of vigor. Such a young man is so suitable for the distant mountains. There was haze and mist between his eyebrows, but there was a ray of sparkling green light at dawn among the mountains. Even the sound of the piano was more frivolous and calm than before. My life should be like this, not afraid of naked courage, and should be wild instead of imprisoned on the track. It's great. I didn't expect to see me like this in my lifetime. When the last note fell, Professor Venier stood up excitedly. Well, this should be the best song I asked you to play. You are so young, but you are almost better than the teacher. The teacher said jokingly, you taught me well. I want to accompany the teacher this afternoon. There are some things in the orphanage that need my help. My student is kind-hearted, so Professor Venier naturally won't say anything. He agreed with both hands and feet. However, he will soon regret his decision. When I passed by a small alley, I was suddenly dragged into it without any defense. I was quickly pressed to the ground, and the sudden pain in my waist made me want to curl up reflexively. But before I could do this, their leader held me down and tore my clothes open, exposing my collarbone. I seemed to think of something, and I fought back desperately. Let go, let me go. I twisted my body like a maggot. I was thin to begin with, and my resistance only made these burly men more excited. The leader pressed his body against me, his face so close that I could see the finest hair on his face. He lay on my collarbone and greedily took my breath. His hands kept stroking my cheeks, exploring every corner. This feeling made him feel like he was floating in the air, and his heart began to beat wildly, uncontrollably. He seemed to have forgotten everything around him, and he wanted to use the ground as a bed and just start his sexual happiness. I am very thin, but I was born with beautiful bones. You can tell by looking at my exposed collarbone without looking at anything else. Even if I'm covered in scars, I can't stop my beauty. Boss, this guy's body is really attractive. Can you let the brothers enjoy it after you're done? The people who pressed my arms and ankles used a lot of strength. They like people with a rebellious spirit. No problem. People like this should enjoy themselves. The leader pinched my face and stretched out his hand to hold my waist. He moved my hand to make me meet him and leaned over to bite my neck. The strange breath stained my neck like a storm that caught me off guard. My hand couldn't move, so I could only hit the ground continuously until the back of my hand bled. But the other party was already interested. How could he let me go? My mouth was also blocked, and I couldn't even shout for help at this time. I couldn't show anything except the disgust and anger in my eyes. My tears dripped from the corners of my eyes to the ground, and my whole body was left with only a broken feeling. I wish someone could come to save me at this time. Any kind of person would be fine. I don't want to suffer such grievances. The person holding my hand couldn't help it and pounced on me like a hungry wolf. At this time, I burst out the last of my strength and bit the ear of the leader fiercely. The bloody taste in my mouth began to fascinate me and drive me crazy. At this moment, I only wanted to kill these people in front of me. If I kill them, I won't have to suffer so much. There were howling sounds in the dark alley, full of unspeakable pain, and every sound expressed my anger. Go to hell, dare to bite me. I saw the other party quickly raise his hand and slap me in the face. This slap was so strong that my cheek was almost numb, and there was blood at the corner of my mouth, but this was not the worst. The worst thing was that I heard bursts of tinnitus in my ears. The boss covered his ears tightly, obviously wanting to kill. He was shaking all over and breathing heavily, feeling that he could no longer calm down. He pressed me to the ground and kicked me like he was stepping on garbage. There was no mercy in every kick, and almost every kick was full of strength. I just hooked my lips and clenched my hands tightly, and my cold and arrogant eyes seemed to have lost focus. What should I do when my deep eyes are filled with anger? I suddenly regret the bet that year. I looked at the mark on my hand and fainted. It is undeniable that I just wanted revenge at that moment. You were so brave. Before the leader could speak, two more people appeared by the wall. One was extremely lazy and relaxed, with his hands folded in front of his chest. The dark eyes shot out bursts of cold light, and the bone-chilling coldness instantly froze everything around. It made people feel like they were in an ice cellar. He was a believer of the devil. A bunch of people were scared and quickly stepped back. Are you? The other party just raised his eyes and raised two fingers. His eyes were full of teasing. The man behind him immediately stepped forward and tied these people up in 3 or 5 strokes. Stars, cripple their third legs and send them to the man surnamed Jiang. Tell him that if there's a next time, it will be his who is crippled. He looked at the marks on my neck and understood what this group of people had just done without thinking. Yes, the man called Stars didn't ask anything. He was calm from beginning to end, as if this was not the first time he had done this. He squatted down and picked me up from the ground expressionlessly. There was no heartache or pity, but there was a little more inquiry in his eyes. It seems that you're not as simple as I thought. It is really getting more and more interesting. As expected, life is like a play, and it all depends on acting. The boy in my arms seems to be better at acting than me. I slowly opened my eyes. My eyes were still empty, looking at him empty, and the whole person was particularly decadent, as if I couldn't get interested at all. I didn't care who was in front of me, or even care. Suddenly, as if I remembered something, I scratched my neck. I used a lot of strength, as if I wanted to peel off that layer of skin and grow a new one. Soon my neck was red. If my hand was not broken and I couldn't use my strength, I would have bled a long time ago. But I still felt that it was not enough to reach out and wanted to scratch. He quickly held my hand down with such an action. It directly reminded me of the memory that I wanted to erase. I began to resist violently and couldn't help but lie on the bed and retched. But because I didn't eat anything, I didn't vomit anything. Don't touch me. Get out of here. My voice was still weak, but his eyes were still full of disgust. He was obviously scared. I didn't expect that this time he would hurt me so much. I'm sorry, Brother Shun. I didn't mean to touch you. Calm down, okay? He looked at me with gentle eyes like a pool of autumn water. There was also gentleness in his tone. He raised his hand carefully for fear of scaring me. As soon as he opened his mouth, I was stunned and obviously found that something was wrong with me. I reached out and touched my left ear and found that it could no longer sense any sound. I couldn't accept this fact. I pulled the needle in my hand hard and pulled it off. The whole person curled up in pain. Obviously, I had nothing left but these. Why is God still unwilling to let me go? I passively accepted this reality, and the whole ward was filled with grief-stricken cries. I was still hoping that it must be a mistake, that the doctor must have made a mistake, but my left ear couldn't even hear my own cries. I really couldn't hear anymore, so I could only use one side to listen to music, and I would no longer be a student that could make my teacher proud. I thought a lot, and the more I thought, the sadder I became. I curled up more and more and huddled myself in a corner of the bed, trying to get a sense of security, or maybe I was tired of crying. My crying turned into suppressed sobs. But in the end, I started laughing again. My eyes were laughing, and the tear mole at the corner of my eye was laughing too. Even the arc of the corner of my mouth was perfect and fascinating, and I laughed so wantonly. I even slowly stretched my body, letting my skinny body lie straight on the bed. The rise and fall of my chest also showed how happy I was laughing at this time. He didn't persuade me that extreme sadness really makes you laugh. It was the first time that he found that a smile could be so ironic. But things didn't turn around after all. He wouldn't let go and wouldn't be soft-hearted. I don't know how long I struggled, but I finally fell asleep because of exhaustion. He picked up my phone and called Professor Venier. I told him everything, and after listening to him, Professor Venier fell to the ground. He gasped and covered his heart tightly with his hands, and opened the medicine he carried with him with trembling hands. He took 2 pills to get rid of the so-called near-death feeling, and he looked up at the ceiling. It turned out that the tragedy happened right under his nose, and he even had the ability to save it. But no matter what he did, he shouldn't let me go. He hated the injustice of the world and why it was unfair to me. He didn't feel much better at this time. He felt guilty and regretted that I was not worth it. People like that shouldn't be like this. How should he face his students? He sat there motionless for the whole night, and for the first time he felt what it was like to have the will but not the strength. For the first time, he felt that he was really old, and for the first time he began to doubt his fate. He was a materialist, and he only believed that fate was in his own hands. He came from a small rural village, washed dishes for others, did sales, and did all kinds of work. Like me, he did not have such a happy childhood, but he got through it. So why can't my students get through it? The whole night was not easy for me, and Professor Venier was not easy either. I suffered a double blow on my heart and body, and I was still oppressed in my dream. And those people on my body were like demons, wanting to possess me and plunder me. The humiliation in my heart was like a blunt knife, cutting my flesh piece by piece. There were also some contemptuous, mocking, and gloating expressions around me. No one helped me, and I was like a zombie without a soul, living in endless darkness, letting the other person grope and kiss at will. I could no longer wash myself clean. I suddenly sat up. The experience of this dream was so strong that it made me feel like I was back in the morning. I suddenly felt numb all over and sat on the edge of the bed, as if I had no bones. My stomach couldn't help but cramp, and I couldn't help but lean on the bed and retch. It was as if I wanted to vomit out the demon living in my heart. I was sitting in the dark at this time, hesitant, timid, depressed, and suffocated. All kinds of emotions surrounded me. I began to be confused and at a loss. He, who had been sleeping soundly, was also woken up. He turned on the light in the ward and looked at me, who was extremely empty on the bed, and finally did not approach. He just sat far away from me and accompanied me. The next morning, Professor Venier rushed to the hospital without stopping and saw me with bandages on my hands. At this moment, he realized that his students were more fragile than he thought. He was afraid that his emotions would affect me, so he took a few deep breaths at the door before walking in. He was holding the cake he had started making before dawn, even though he had practiced it many times. But the cake he baked this time was the ugliest, and he had failed many times. When I saw Professor Venier, I deliberately turned my left face away so that he wouldn't see it. But such a small move is the most distressing. I am in this state, but I still have to think about others. What silly child, come, Xiaoyan, try the cakes that the teacher baked today. They are all your favorite. The teacher got up before dawn, and Professor Venier used his usual smile routine. But taking it out at this time, it turned into a bitter smile. I shook my head. Teacher, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. Although I haven't eaten anything since yesterday, I still feel nauseous, and I don't want to eat anything. Professor Venier's hand, holding the cake, suddenly stopped. He didn't want to force me, so he reached out to get the porridge next to him. There were countless spoonfuls of sugar in this bowl of porridge. If it were any other time, he would definitely not let me eat it. But at this time, he wanted to add a few more spoonfuls. How could he not be hungry? From yesterday to now, you have not eaten anything, just a few sips. Give the teacher some face. When Professor Venier approached with the porridge, I could clearly feel that I stepped back unconsciously. My hands were also nervously grasping the quilt. Seeing this, Professor Venier immediately put the bowl of porridge on the table next to him. I stepped back immediately. He couldn't continue to stimulate me.